Joining us now, our good friend, Don McEachin. He's state senator, second in command at the State Democratic Caucus in the Senate, and he is a candidate for Congress in the 4th Congressional District. Now, just so you know what's going on, the 4th District Congressman, Randy Forbes, has gone to the 2nd District. He's in his own battle there with Scott Taylor in a primary. And so the 4th District, come November, will have a new congressman. There are 4 candidates, I think, or maybe 5 vying for that. In the Democratic primary, which will be settled on June 14th, and by the way, all eligible voters can participate in either Republican or Democratic primary. The 3 Democratic candidates are the frontrunner, Don McEachin, Chesapeake Councilwoman Ella Ward, and former congressional candidate Elliot Faust, although we haven't seen Elliot, and we decided to put his picture on a milk carton. If anybody has seen that man, have him call me because we can't find them. Joining us now, Senator McEachin. Senator, great to have you with us, man.
Good morning. Good morning. I hope you're doing well.
Never better. Lawsuits are us in Virginia. Let's get to the one that got settled yesterday. The Supreme Court justices upholding a lower court decision saying that the original redistricting done by the General Assembly was gerrymandering, and they threw out the Republican lawsuit to return the old districts back, and it's what we had coined the Randy Forbes Protection Act. Comment on that decision yesterday, Senator, by the Supremes.
What the Republicans had done was to pack Bobby Scott's congressional district, that's the 3rd congressional district, with as many African Americans as they could to limit the ability of African Americans to influence other districts beyond the 3rd congressional district. The court said that was wrong. The Republicans appealed, and the court said that the Supreme Court said the Republicans didn't have standing, which is not surprising because essentially the Republican argument was, we stand to be injured by these districts. We may not win, therefore we ought to be able to sue about it. There is no constitutionally granted right to get reelected. And that's essentially what the Supreme Court said.
Okay, and I agree with that. I mean, this is not the Incumbent Protection Act. It's like I have a job, so therefore if they change my boundaries, I don't have a job and I deserve some kind of restitution for that. I mean, I thought that lawsuit from day one was stupid. They spent over $1 million on it. The only people that makes anything out of this are the lawyers that took the $1 million. I thought it was a complete waste of time. Let's get to the lawsuit now that the Republican leadership has filed, Senator, to stop the what they call the unconstitutional act of Terry McAuliffe in order to reinstate 206,000 felons in Virginia. And what they're saying is the law clearly states that each felon has to be individually reinstated. You can't do it in a blanket move because they're saying in the suit is that is changing Virginia's law, changing their constitution, and McAuliffe doesn't have the right to do that. What is your response to this?
Article 5, Section 12. I invite your listeners to read Article 5, Section 12, as well as the Republicans who have filed the lawsuit. Article 5, Section 12 of the Virginia Constitution clearly gives the governor the power to do just what he did. The Republicans might want to read things into that article. They may want to say it should have said this or it could have said that, but the language is plain, clear, and unmistakable.
So why wasn't this done? And I asked you the same question on a conference call we had a few weeks ago. Why wasn't this done by Mark Warner or Tim Kaine or Doug Wilder?
I can't answer that question. I wasn't privy to the folks who gave them advice. I don't know what their thought process might have been. But again, if you sort of crack the book open and read the Constitution, there it is on its face.
Okay, so do you think the lawsuit that the Republicans filed, Senator, do you think that has any standing?
I don't think it has standing because I think they are hard pressed to show how they have been injured by the notion that 206,000 Virginians now have the right to vote. We'll see what the court has to say about their standing theory, their theory that they have a right to file this lawsuit. But beyond that, even if they do have standing, I believe the lawsuit will fail on its merits.
Well, I tell you what I would do if I were them. Not that they would ever take my advice on anything, but if I was running for office and I was involved in this, I tell you what I would do. Rather than file lawsuits, I would try to figure out how to get these 2006 felons that got reinstated to back the Republicans. I would say you're better off with our policies and getting a job. You're better off with our policies and raising your kids. I would get them to vote Republican rather than reinstate them. That's what I would do. I think that's a better strategy. Look, I'm not a lawyer. I've heard two sides of the argument. We'll let the legal system figure it out. But you got 200,000 people that have not voted in Virginia that now have an opportunity to vote. I don't know why Republicans just wouldn't say, we've got a better message, we have a better platform, we can give you a better future, whatever, instead of filing these lawsuits. But I understand the two sides of the argument. Senator, let's get to some national issues going on right now. The so-called compromise bailout on Puerto Rico that we had, a lot of people saying, this is just another example of Wall Street getting bailed out with taxpayer dollars, restructuring the debt. How do you stand on that?
I certainly think that we should bail Puerto Rico out. I have not read the bill that just passed out of the House of Representatives. It was cobbled together by the Speaker and Nancy Pelosi. So I don't know the particular details of that bill at this juncture, but I certainly think that if we could have bailed out corporations in this country, we can certainly bail out a territory in the United States.
When do we stop the bailouts?
You have to look at it on a case-by-case basis. We supposedly have put together through legislation in the Congress the notion of someone not being too big to fail. I wonder about whether we've successfully done that. I'm still afraid that there's some corporations that are too big to fail. And if I am fortunate enough to go to the Congress, I want to make sure that one of the things that we actually do is make sure that no corporation is too big to fail so that we don't essentially have to bail out companies just so that the country can stay solvent.
Well, look, this gets back to the Wall Street issue. And basically, when we had the crash in 2008, we had a number of big banks that were, quote unquote, too big to fail. We had the TARP, we had the bailout, we had all the stuff. And now there were 8 big banks. This was supposed to break them up. Now we got 5. So we're worse than ever. And it's the same old story. And I think this is what is frustrating, Senator, average Americans, is they just feel that nobody really is speaking to them or cares about them. Now I want to get to economics. Right now, Trump is ahead of Mrs. Clinton in several of the recent public survey opinion polls that came out. If Trump becomes president, he's going to institute a bevy of tariffs in order to stop companies from moving out of the United States and then shipping their jobs out and having their goods come back in without a tariff in seek of lower wages. Would you be in favor of that or not?
I'd have to read what actually Donald Trump puts forward. I understand that he is I'm guessing that he is your candidate of choice.
Yes.
But he's said so many different things on so many different issues that you'd actually have to sit down and read the bill that he proposes to make sure that you understand what he's saying. I will say this, though, on the issue of trade, and I've said this on the campaign trail, I believe that we need to engage in fair trade with our partners. The challenge with some of these trade agreements is just this: we are not trading with people who share our values, whether it's about the environment, whether it's about workplace protection, whether it's about wages. And so we need to be about the business of making sure we're trading with people who share those values. And if we enter into trade agreements with folks who do not share those values, there ought to be triggers along the way that move them towards our value system when it comes to trade. Otherwise, we will forever be at a disadvantage when it comes to trade.
Well, on that, we are in complete agreement. I want to get to foreign policy a minute. Last week, Senator Tim Kaine from Virginia, who has endorsed your candidacy, Senator Kaine sent a letter to President Obama and made it public in the media chastising the president for not allowing in 10,000 Syrian refugees that he had promised. Only 1,200 had come in. So Kaine said, look, we need to get these other 8,800 in ASAP before the new fiscal year in the summer. Now, every one of these refugees, the GEO says the resettlement figure is about $65,000. Here's my question. Are you in favor of bringing in these other 8,800 Syrian refugees or not?
I'm in favor of bringing in these refugees and any other refugees who pass the rigorous background checks that they have to go through to get to this country. And so, I am assuming that these 8,800 are subject to those background checks. I'm absolutely in favor of them coming here.
So, Senator, let me just ask you this. There's people in your district and in Richmond suffering, right? They don't have jobs. Male black unemployment between 22 and 29 is somewhere about 50%. I mean, it's a staggering number. Exactly what does bringing in Syrian refugees, how does that benefit your constituents right now who are out of a job, who are suffering, who are trying to make ends meet? How does that help them?
You're comparing apples and oranges. Bringing in the Syrian refugees is not going to hurt or help the unemployment of a certain segment of our population in the 4th Congressional District. It's a humanitarian thing to do. When it comes to job development, we've got a great governor who has led us in a stellar way in terms of creating jobs throughout the Commonwealth. We need to do more. We need to entice cybersecurity to come to the Commonwealth, and I believe that the 4th Congressional District is a great place to have more companies invest in the 4th Congressional District that are invested in the area of cybersecurity. I believe that the need to expand rural broadband throughout the Commonwealth, and particularly in the 4th Congressional District, will mean jobs for Southside Virginia. So it's taking actions like that that will help alleviate some of our unemployment problems. But to suggest that 800 Syrian refugees are going to somehow make the employment problems of the members of the 4th Congressional District worse or better, for that matter, is I think, not a good argument. So
we want to take them in, and you're advocating it. We're 3,000 miles away, yet Kuwait, Dubai, the Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, and Kuwait, by the way, the country that we liberated with our blood, none of these Middle Eastern countries are taking in a single Syrian refugee, not one. But we're supposed to take them in, regardless of what the security risk is, at $65,000 each, when we're also paying to defend countries in the Middle East that aren't taking one of them in. I mean, for an average American that is trying to make ends meet, how does this make any sense to them? And as congressmen, when are we going to put America first? That's my question.
We put America first each and every day as a congressman, and that's certainly what I will do. And I can't speak to the foreign policy decisions of Saudi Arabia or Kuwait or some of the other Arab countries. But I can speak to our humanitarian efforts here in this country, and it is the right thing to do to accept the refugees, and to suggest that somehow they are a heightened security risk when we know that they go through a rigorous background check as a refugee coming to this country, again, I think is not a very good argument.
Okay, final question that we have, minimum wage. Both you and I are in favor of raising the minimum wage, right? How much is it?
Right. Common ground.
Yes, we have common ground. $7.25 an hour, I think, is outrageous. I'll tell you the other thing. Every time the minimum wage has gone up, Senator, all these people who say, oh, my goodness, it's going to cost all these jobs. There's no documented evidence in history of the United States where it cost any jobs anywhere, any place. So here's my question. What should it be?
Oh, I would support increasing it to $15 an hour. You can't do it overnight. You have to phase it in over a period of time. But I think certainly $15 an hour is appropriate.
So would you be in favor of maybe $7.25 to maybe $10, then $12.50, something that steps up over time?
Something that steps up over time. I wouldn't suggest to you that it needs to go in that fashion necessarily. It's something that ought to be studied. It's something that ought to be phased in. You can't go from 0 to 100 instantly, but certainly $15 an hour ought to be the target number.
And do you think it should be instituted at the federal level or the state level?
I think it would be best for it to be instituted at the state level, but if the states are reluctant to get there, this has national implications, and so I'm prepared to do it at the federal level.
All right, that's going to be our final question. We want to thank Senator Don McEachin for being with us today. He's a candidate for Congress on the Democratic side, and he is in a June 14th primary, primarily with Dr. Ella Ward from Chesapeake. Anybody that's in the 4th District who is a registered voter can vote in that primary. Don, thanks for being with us, sir.
Thanks for the opportunity. Have a great day.